I wanted to start this service with honoring Mary Lou Cupp. She is a licensed Unity teacher, and she is a beloved member of our spiritual community. So, Mary Lou, wherever you are, which is most likely right here, we see you, we love you, and we bless you, and well done, ma'am, well done. So, I was reading a piece from a magazine that my daughter gets, a little magazine subscription, and there was a story in there. And in the story, it was about these young children who were planting a garden with their teacher, and the purpose of planting the garden was because they wanted something to come to the garden. They wanted to have hummingbirds and they wanted to have bees at their school, at their little play place. And so with the teacher, they went about discussing, how do you bring them? You know, can you just go pick up hummingbirds and go pick up bees and just bring them and expect them to stay? What do you have to do? You have to plant things that attract them, right? You have to create a welcoming environment for them. You have to think about what will delight them. And then you plant those things. So the kids went about planting coned flowers and things that the hummingbirds would like and things that would attract the bees. And then as the story goes by, the plants grow, and here come the new arrivals, right? They arrive, and they're there to stay. And I said to my little one as we were finishing this story, I said, so how do we welcome people to our house? And I kind of gave the question not thinking about it and not thinking about how she might answer it or if there is an answer, you know. And she just thought for 1 second, looked up at me, and she said, we clean. And I said, yeah, that's right, we do, don't we? We clean to get ready for people in our house. So what do you do to welcome life into your space? What do you do to prepare for what's coming? To create a welcoming environment for what you envision? What is your spiritual practice? What is the activity that goes on for you? How do you prepare to bring in what's next? To bring in your heart's desires, what you're calling for? What does it look like for you? Mind, body, and spirit. How do you take care of yourself and prepare the inner temple for the next day, the next week, the next month? Do we have a practice? Is it something that we squeeze in? Is it another thing to accomplish? I need to sign up for a retreat. I need to schedule it. I need to put it on my schedule so I can have time to welcome the experience I would like to have moving forward. There's a book that I just started tapping into recently called Burnout. But in that book, she talks about that. She talks about how, especially in this day and age, we have entered this realm where renewal, spiritual renewal, preparing for what's next, taking care of ourselves, self-care, creating spaciousness, has now been pushed into yet another thing to do, another thing to accomplish, another goal that we feel like we're either successful at or we're not at. It's like it's become work to have the Sabbath. Does anyone feel like that? Can you look back at your history with your parents or your grandparents or your childhood and see more spaciousness? Feel more spaciousness around life? How many are either with people or are the people that are constantly on the phone, which is your work, your social life, your family life, constantly pulling you? I always say, do you know some people don't realize they don't have to answer the phone every time it rings? They don't have to answer the text the second it comes in. Do you remember that? Telephone's on the wall. And when you left the building, guess what? Guess who's gone? Like, how much would you give for that? Like, I remember just the feeling a while back of being in an airplane and going like, I'm in an airplane, no one can catch me. It's just space. It's like it clears a field. Can you feel that for a moment? Same thing with camping or hiking or traveling. It used to be traveling. I remember going to Australia and going to Central America and doing all of these adventures of travel. And literally, I popped in on like from the second, I guess I'm thinking like from the second I got on the flight. No, from the second I left my house, I was unreachable. On the flight, I was unreachable. Getting a vehicle or transportation, I was unreachable. And traveling in a whole new place, it was unreachable unless I initiated it and went and intentionally created it. But the space was spacious, it was filled. How often do we have that now? We have filled our lives with so much. How many people have vacation that they just can't even schedule? More vacation than they can even schedule. They're given it, but you can't create the space for it. So many parents are running around doing so much with their kids, one activity to the next activity to the next activity. What happened to spaciousness? And what do we do about that? Because spaciousness is what creates a welcoming environment. A welcoming environment for the soul, for wisdom, for spiritual growth, connectedness, consciousness, evolution, light, healing, wellness, spaciousness. And too often, it's squeezed out of our lives or out of the lives of those that we're with. And what happens when we squeeze it out? We miss things. We become less intentional and more reactive. And life moves by. We get these constant reminders that this is the moment that is promised to us, this one right here. Literally right here, right now, this moment. And it's the one that comes with us for all time. But in the human condition, we often kind of fall asleep to that, and we just get caught up. We start squeezing in life, spaciousness. You know, the Sabbath comes from the creation tale, right? Work, work, work for 6 days. On the seventh, there was rest. That spiritual intention of the Sabbath day, that spiritual intention of the day of rest, is that it's needed and necessary. It's not something to squeeze in, to schedule in, to block in. It's part of our nature. Without it, we become jacked up, don't we? We can become very interesting creatures. Even nature has a Sabbath. You can see it with the change of the seasons. It's like everything just goes underground and it looks like it's gone. It looks like there's stillness. It looks like there's death. But something critical and amazing is happening. I mean, what if we went all, I was going to say all United States of America on nature, and we're like, you know what? You can't rest. Just keep growing all year round. Like, we're going to make something to put in the soil so the Mother Earth never goes to sleep. So those leaves keep trees keep their leaves all year long. So the grass just keeps growing all year long. How would that be? It's not in our nature. It's in our nature to have periods of rest. It's in our nature to have cycles. It's in our nature to honor our nature. If we want everything to function on the highest level, we have to tune in to what we are. Mind, body, spirit. We have to care for ourselves, and we have to honor our rhythms. But we often feel like we are faced with these limitations, these restrictions, and we're faced with things that seem insurmountable because we create according to sometimes the world, the ego, not in line with who we are, what we are as beings, not fully in line with our nature. And when we create like that, we end up with systems that don't honor humanity. You know, we end up with countries that have health insurance just if you have a good job. Like, not because you're a human, but if you have a good job that can pay for it. And we become faced with things in our external environment and in our internal environment that feel like limitations, that feel like restrictions, that feel like, it's not what I want, but there's nothing I can do about it. I don't have the power, or the story's over. It's done. This is how it is. With parenting, you know, there used to be one income households, right? A one income household could afford to have a home, you know, maybe take a vacation, provide schooling and education. And then there was one individual that could care for the home and care for the children, care for the life. And then we moved to the progress of women in the workforce, but we missed something. It's like we didn't take the Sabbath day to look at intention. We missed something, and we moved into a system where two people would work, both full time. I mean, maybe if we'd had the Sabbath day, we would have said, okay, when the men came back from the war, if you still want to work and I still want to work, let's each do 20 hours and still fully sustain a home. But what happened was, it's like, you do 40 hours, I'll do 40 hours, and then the workplace went, okay, well, 40 hours is now worth this much, and it takes 80 hours. Okay, that's what it takes to sustain a home, to sustain a life. And then it was like, then marriages changed, relationships changed, single households became more prevalent, and then you've got that trying to work on then half that and sustain life. Because we didn't take time for the Sabbath. We didn't take time to honor the Spirit within each of us and what our natural rhythms are and what is possible in life, and to step into intention rather than reactivity and unconsciously going through the days of creation. And we see higher burnout these days than we've probably ever seen, right? Service-oriented jobs, jobs that are related to nourishing people and lifting people up, educating people, healthcare and caring for people. And for many of us, it seems like we just can't catch a break. There's just not enough time to get grounded again. There's not enough spaciousness to get grounded again. And sometimes when you do, have you ever had this, that you plan for a vacation and you have to do so much work to get ready for the vacation, and then when you get back, you have to do so much work to clean up from being gone from the vacation that it's like you almost burn out on both ends of it. And then we expect humanity to have the freedom to express its full light. Pensions have died. Healthcare is interesting. Childcare is a necessity. You can add to it the things that are aggravating you in your life. What are they? You know, we have corporations running the show. We have an ever-increasing retirement age, the middle class dissolving before our eyes, the housing market becoming unattainable, profiling, systematic racism. We have people making decisions for other people that might not understand who they are, men making decisions for women, white men often making decisions for the nation. Those things are shifting, but it can lead people into an energy of feeling stuck, feeling like there's not even enough spaciousness to start changing these things. Have you ever felt like that? There's not even enough space to stop, to make the shift, because it's almost like there's an energy in humanity that's exhausted. Like there's a big sabbatical needed. Like, let's just take a big sabbatical so we can reinvent according to our nature. And we feel like we have to abide by what we see, by what the system is, or what is created around us, or what we're used to creating within us, because we have these limitations and they are, for all accounts, seemingly real. It's what we have to work with. It's the end of the story. This is how it is. But it's not the end of the story. That's the good news. It's not the end of the story. There is never an end. Isn't that true? There is never an end to anything. It's an illusion that there is an end to anything. There are only chapters. There are only eras. There are only experiences. And then there is what's next. And it is incumbent upon each of us to stand in that truth, to call it forth, and to create a welcoming environment for what's next. And the thing is, no one's going to do it except for us. And it's going to be a movement of people doing it day by day, moment by moment, lifestyle by lifestyle. And that's where we have our impact on the collective. So we can get down. I mean, you can even feel the energy, right? Talking about those things is like, It could feel insurmountable. You know, there's conversations happening about purchasing power and how much impact it can have. And minorities that have often not had that power now are having a growing amount of purchasing power, a growing amount of power to shift what our operations look like, to shift what's available if we're aware, if it's intentional, if there's enough time to recognize our power. And that's what the Sabbath is about. The Sabbath is about taking the time in the silence, in the quiet, in the rest, to get into truth and to get into principle. To really get into truth and to get into the principle. Because if we operate according to the human condition, according to a sense of separation and ego mind, we believe three illusions. The three illusions we believe is that there is an end to something, that it's done. It is how it is, and that's what it looks like. It's finite, it's done. Illusion number one. The second illusion is limitations. Believing in and buying into limitations. And the third illusion is that we have no power, that we are powerless. When the truth is that there is no end. There is no end. Life is infinite. God is infinite. Resources are infinite. It's perception, it's perspective, it's stepping into principle. But there are chapters and there are eras, but there is not an end. There is no final to the story. Okay, this is the final thing. Here it is. No. That's how it is right now. But the story's never over. There's no end game. Graduation is just a new start, a new adventure. Change is just nature. Death is just a new beginning. We may have disappointments. We may be upset. We may not like how things are going or how things have gone. But there are not endings. I want to share a little bit from Eric Butterworth in The Flow of Life. Eric Butterworth, one of Unity's greatest ministers and teachers, he says in The Flow of Life, in the flowing experience of life, change is constant reality. In every change, we see evidence of the process of death and rebirth. He goes on to say, when a person moves from room to room, it could be said of him or her, he is leaving a room, or she is entering a room. Both are true. We may give it any emphasis we want. In the same sense, when a student leaves college, she could say, my life is over. True. That life as you knew it is over. Or I am beginning a new life. True. The emphasis she gives will have a lot to do with her thoughts and ultimately her whole experience of life. The same is true through the changes brought on by marriage or illness or a new job or even unemployment. There is a death of that which was and a birth of that which is now. It could be said that death is the other side of life, and life is the other side of death. In the flow of eternal life, the motion picture continues, perhaps in another reel or scene or chapter. Can we remind ourselves of that truth? I was once on a hiking trip in Conundrum. It's a place in Colorado where you hike up all day. You've got to get there really early. You put on big, heavy backpacks, and you hike in to the mountains. You go up, and at the top there is a springs, natural hot springs. And I was on this trip with 2 college girlfriends, one of which was getting married, and this was our little bachelorette party for her Colorado girl style. And so we packed up all of our stuff, and we went on this adventures. And I don't know if she asked me to bring the guidance cards, or it was just something I, was kind of fond of doing, as creating a sacred space at that time. But anyway, I had guidance cards with me, and if you don't know what they are, they're just cards that you pick, and some of them have animal totems or flowers or angels, whatever it is, and each one has a story and a message. And if you close your eyes and get quiet and set an intention, you can pick a card and read it. And I remember we were doing that process when we were just creating sacred space with each other. And we got to her card, and I'm pretty sure she said she wanted me to pick it for her, which normally, everyone would pick their own. And she said, I want you to pick it for me. And that was kind of a lot of pressure, because this is like an ending, right? You're getting married, and here's the blessing for your marriage, right? And so we did. We all got quiet. We all set our intention for her. Okay, what is it she needs to hear? And I turned over the card, and I looked at it, and I thought, oh, dear Lord, I can't say that out loud. Can't quite put it back and pick another one. And she said, what is it? Show me. I lifted it out, and it was death. Death. Now imagine that. You're a young 20-something, excited to be getting married, and here you are with your girlfriends blessing you on your journey, and this little adventure of picking a card, and death. And she just sat there, and she looked at both of us, and she said, that fits. Because this is an end. It's an end to an era, an end to a life that I've known as me. And it's a whole new beginning. And she just talked about that and leaned into it and was like, it's right. Let me just receive that so I can be with that. Process that. Things are going to be different. There's someone going to be living with me all the time. We're going to be creating together rather than separate things apart. There are going to be all new adventures that take my life on a different course than it ever has been, and shifts and choices and things made in different ways. And I just looked at her and just in awe and wonder at her beauty and at her consciousness, thinking she didn't take that and read something else into it. She received what it had for her. And isn't that true? That we rebirth in eras of our life. And that when one shifts, like it may look like a limitation, it may look like an ending, right? But there are a whole new set of possibilities. And those limitations, they are imagined. They are imagined. They may be physical in some respects. They may be true and they may be physical, but not in the full realm of mind, body, spirit. Not when looked at spiritually, not when looked at holistically. When looked at holistically, no limitation is real. You ask anyone that has special abilities, and they can tell you that. They can teach you that. Because when one thing shuts down, something else floods open. But when we have a perception and when we buy into the illusion of limitation, then we can feel like we're at the mercy of something. We can feel attacked. We can feel a victim of our endings. We can feel like they have power over us, that we have no control, no choice. When in fact, with a spiritual perspective, with a grounded perspective, we recognize that there is no limitation in God. And we are in God. We live and move and have our being in God. So the truth principle to stand in is that there is no limitation. There may be shifts, but something else will open. Something else will open. But when we feel powerless and when we believe that we are powerless, then we end up creating a paradigm, and a paradigm that we often agree to live by, forgetting that we were part of co-creating the paradigm, that we made an agreement with it, and that paradigm being that we are powerless. That somehow things can happen to me, things can come from others or come from environments or come from the world that I was born into, and it can happen to me, and I am powerless to shift. I am powerless to change. I am powerless to create the welcoming environment for what I want to have in my life and how I want to live and how I want to be. And that's a terrible feeling, but it's not based in truth. Truth is that we are never powerless. That a victimhood is a state of consciousness in a mind, or it's an experience. That in fact, most of our worries, most of our limitations are either borrowed or imagined. A very small portion of them are physical reality and ongoing. And even those ones that are, if we go into scripture and we go into the paradigms of those stories, we get the message over and over that what someone meant for evil, God makes good. God is the good that happens from anything at any time. And that is the potential for what's next. That is always present. But if we stand looking at the victimhood, if we stand looking at the door, if we stand looking at the back curtain, thinking it's death, wishing it wasn't there, thinking, this is what it is, and I have to now just get behind it. I have to get behind it. I have to stay behind it. I found Joe back here. Wait. Peekaboo. But when we think that, we have surprises, right? And it's so metaphysical. There's stuff back there. And we'll create our lives back there. I mean, Joe and I could go hang out and do some music back there. We've got to come out of the curtain. We've got to come onto the front stage of our lives, and we've got to live it. But we forget, we believe in these three illusions. We believe in these limitations. We believe sometimes that we don't have the power to change something. Think about how we do this, and then we reenact it by retelling the story. I am so guilty of this, friends. Aren't you? We are. But it doesn't honor ourselves, and that's what it means to practice truth. It means that when we feel these things, we stop and we sit ourselves down and we say, sweetheart, take a Sabbath. Take a Sabbath. Look at the environment you're creating. Create a welcoming environment. That doesn't mean we don't stand up for things. That doesn't mean we don't speak truth to power. That doesn't mean we're not disgruntled or upset or whatever it is about things the way they are. But it means that we can't stay in the story, right? We can't stay in the story because it's either that the story gets to end or our future gets to end as far as the welcoming environment for what we want. So we step into the practice, we stand in the practice, and we speak truth to our own power. No? Nothing can hold back growth. Nothing can hold back transformation. It's a cliche, but when a door closes, a window opens, a sunroof, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But there is something open, and it is incumbent upon each of us to find it. And not only to find it, but to become it. To create within us, mind, body, spirit, the welcoming temple. Wayne Dyer says, the secret to changing your life is in your intentions. Wishing, hoping, and goal setting cannot accomplish change without intention. What is needed is a shift from the inert energy of wanting to the active energy of doing and intention. So when we feel hopeless, when we feel disconnected, when we feel powerless, it's a call, simply a call to get intentional. A call to do a turnaround, to pull our energy into the present moment, to affirm, I am built for this right now. To affirm if we see something happen that we didn't want to happen after we have put our full self into what our intention is and what our potential is, but after that, then to look at the present moment and not to call it a problem. But instead to open the window, open a door, to have faith. Sig Paulson, Unity minister, said the freedom of humanity cannot come through institutions and organizations. It must come through the awakening and unfoldment of each individual. Institutions and organizations can encourage and inspire the individual growth through their activities, or, as has happened so often in the past, they can stifle or suppress it. In the long look of eternity, even the darkness, bigotry, and suppression tactics of organized society will prove to have been factors in individual unfoldment. Because the pressures they have enforced on the man spirit are finally forcing it to move towards eventual freedom. In the age of enlightenment, institutions and organizations will become what they are in the divine design, instruments of service through which the unfolding self of humanity find greater opportunities to serve. I want to share with you from another Unity book that is not so well known, but it is by Frank B. Whitney, and it's called Mightier Than Circumstance. He says, think of yourself as going forward, as always going forward. Realize that each day you are nearer your goal and your ideal than you were the day before. Know that within you lies the power to progress. Nothing in this world can keep you from advancing when you know this truth. He also says this, quite likely you are entertaining the belief that some person or something has the power to disturb your peace of mind. But is this true? Do you not feel something within you trying to convince you that it is not true? But is this true? Does not something at the heart of your being tell you that God is in all? Is it not logical to believe that you came into the world master of conditions and things about you? Does it not seem foolish to believe that God would have created you and placed you in this world to be at its mercy? Let nothing disturb thee. Drop from any mind belief that you are entertaining to the contrary. Cease to build up a state of mind in which you give any person or thing power to disturb you. No longer give any thought to the belief that you are a victim of another's unkindness, injustice, or ill will. You are free from all belief that another can disturb you. But you must know this truth in order to see it demonstrated in your life. Your freedom from all belief that persons or things can disturb you must be an active thought in your mind. This active thought must neutralize and annihilate all the belief that you have previously entertained that they can disturb you. You must establish in mind the truth that you are undisturbed. You should aim to reach the consciousness of life where you are not constantly thinking about what other persons think, say, or do. In the impersonal consciousness, you will not let persons and things disturb you. You will live with God. And in the realization that God is in the midst of you is the only presence and the only power, God in the midst of you, and the only power in truth. You will come to know that your thoughts must be on God at all times. When things seem to disturb you and seem to take your peace of mind from you, let this be a warning that you need to think truth and direct your thought to God and the heart of your being. You cannot believe in the power of other persons and things when you believe in your own God-given power, the power of the presence of God within you. Let nothing disturb thee. You know, I had the gift to visit our beloved Mary Lou Cupp, one of our congregants who was quite a fan of the virtual sanctuary. So shout out to everyone in the virtual sanctuary today. She told me at one time, I kind of think this might be my new home. Like, I could come back in, but I'm really liking it in here. And what do we do when there's change? We don't resist it. I said to her, you be where you feel nourished. Doesn't matter what it looks like in the sanctuary. You be where you feel nourished. And that became her spiritual family experience for Sunday. And I had the gift of getting to talk to her last Sunday. If you know Mary Lou or know anything about what she shared on about a week ago, she shared that the medical support community she had let her know she had about 4 to 8 weeks on the planet left before she lifted off into her freedom form. And when she got this news, she started scheduling friends to come say hi and spend time with her, and she wanted to get them all in quickly. And I thought it was interesting because she had me come there on Sunday. I knew a little bit about why I was coming, but I didn't know the contents, but I just said, I want to come see you. And I didn't know what we would be talking about. And she said, well, I said, sometime this weekend. And she said, well, Sunday. I hadn't even thought about it being Mother's Day. She said, Sunday, but that's not a good day for ministers. So, and I said, it's a good day. That's a good day. Whatever day you say is a good day, and I'll be there. And not quite realizing that it was Mother's Day. And I spent Sunday with Mary Lou and her 2 daughters and their family. And Mary Lou went right into her celebration of life service and planning it. And there was a little bit of me resisting, a little bit of me going, wait, are we doing this right now? Like this is like, it's so fast. And are you sure you want to do this right now? In the back of my mind. But it's Mary Lou. She's intentional. Okay, this is what we're doing. And I thought about the sisters a little bit, and bless you if you're with us today. I thought, is this a little much for them already? We just got this news. From the day she posted her news to her community, to the day she lifted off. If you look at her liftoff day, it says right on there, the post where she said she was getting ready to lift off said, 6 days ago. 6 days ago. And you know what happened on the 7th day? She rose. She rested. She lifted into her freedom form on the 7th day. And when I was there with her on that sacred Mother's Day, she looked at me and she said, I don't want to resist this. Resistance causes suffering. I am going with this. I am going with this. She was in the flow of life. She was intentional. And she did what the doctors and the medical community thought would take her and her body 4 to 8 weeks. And she did it in 6 days. And on the 7th day, she rested. Well done, Mary Lou Cup. Well done. She knew it was not an end. She knew it was a new beginning. And when she realized it was here, no matter what she may have wanted, no matter the other ideas, what pictures and expectations she had to let go of, when she realized this is the next chapter, this is the next step, she brought all of her energy and her attention and her intention into the present moment. And she rose. Namaste. Let us rise. Let us rise. We are not powerless. We are free. There is no end. Namaste. Let's start taking our deep breaths and gently closing our eyes to prepare for a time of meditation. Just allowing ourselves to relax and just receive. Wherever we are today, whatever this brought up for us, speaking truth to the core of ourselves. I send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heaven, and it returns to me. I send my love over the mountain. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heaven, and it returns to me. I send my peace over the mountain. I send my peace over the sea. I send my peace into the heavens, and it returns to me. Inhaling and exhaling, we begin to reach the spaces inside of us where we may have bought into the limitations of the human condition. We may have encouraged a sense of separation. We may have been hurt, felt injured. We may even right now be in the midst of something that feels insurmountable. So honoring all of the feelings, the experiences, listening to the thoughts, we become aware, we observe. We observe so that we can be grounded. We are grounded so that we can be present. We are present so that we can find our power. We breathe into our power so that we can set our intention. We set our intention so that we may truly live. So taking a deep inhale and a full exhale, we allow ourselves the Sabbath, the spaciousness, to speak truth, to step into truth, to have faith enough to call it forth when it cannot be seen with the eyes. Life is so much more than meets the eye. When we step into our power and we act on our intentions, there is a wave that comes over humanity, a wave that cannot be held back, a wave of individuals living their truth, living their light. So right here and right now, we make a commitment. A commitment not to sacrifice our true intention, not to give away our power, not to believe in any limitation, even if it feels that it's thrust upon us. We simply plant the seeds in the garden that create a welcoming environment for all things good, all things God. And so it is.